What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday. I hope that all of you are enjoying your weekend, somewhere relaxing, eating some good food, surrounded by friends, family, loved ones, all that good stuff. So Kimmy and Maurice Scott, they have gone on TGIF to address all the backlash after Maurice went on Carlos King's interview and basically stuck his foot in his mouth. And, he is a piece of work. All the Scott brothers are, right? The things that he said, a lot of people, found really, distasteful, disrespectful, myself included, Kimmy included. You know what I mean? Like, she said that his words were crass, but let's go ahead and get into the interview. So they go on TGIF and they're against this, white wall backdrop, very plain. And, they're hugged up. Maurice has his arm around Kimmy. And they open with, of course, the three panelists. If you guys aren't familiar with the show, TGIF is a show that focuses on, trending topics. And it has Claudia Jordan, Funky Dineva, whose real name is Quentin Latham, and Al Reynolds, okay? So Q is doing most of the interviewing at the beginning. And he says, before we even get into it, let's start with your love story. How did you meet? And she said that they were introduced. Kimmy says that she was interested in real estate and that Maurice at the time was flipping houses because, Kimmy is a nurse by trade and Maurice finished his law degree and passed the bar after they got married, I believe. Anyway, so she said that, yeah, it was real estate that brought them together through a friend. And Funky, he's a mess. He was like, you and that lady's husband. Because if you guys know anything about the Scott saga and their timeline, it's real vague, real murky. I've actually made videos about it. If you guys want to go check out my Love and Marriage Huntsville videos, it explains it more in detail about how even the last one that I made where, Melody asked Kimmy flat out, like, so were you a side chick? And Kimmy, of course, she hates that term. And she was just like, no, but technically they were still married at the time. So, it depends on your definition, right? They had filed for divorce, but they weren't technically legally divorced. The ink wasn't dry in the papers. All right. So going back to the interview. Continually. Okay. So Kimmy's really transparent about her breast cancer diagnosis, right? So she is opening up about that. I'm actually switching back and forth because I want to make sure that I get these in order for you guys when I recap this interview that they did on, TGIF. So she's just basically saying that she wanted to first kind of, be a recluse, which is understandable. But she eventually, came out of her shell and began to be open as a, someone blessed with a national platform, right? So she used that lemon in her life to turn it into lemonade and be an inspiration and use that testimony to help and inspire other women, which is a blessing. Okay, so then after Kimmy answers, Q, he's like, okay, now that we got the warm fuzzies out of the way, let's get down to the nitty gritty, right? Because the interview's only 10 minutes, so I get it. And he's like, Maurice, I don't want no, legalese, right? Because he's a lawyer and you know how they get into the red tape and all that good stuff. So he's like, well, let's get down straight to business, basically. He wants them to respond to the specific headline. And it says, quote, a sad case of a man, end quote. Love and Marriage Huntsville fans slam Maurice for demanding intimacy while Kimmy goes through chemotherapy. So he directs the question to Kimmy. He says, Kimmy, what is your response to all the backlash that Maurice is getting lately? And she responds, she says, initially, I didn't even watch the video. Okay. So as she began reading the comments, she said, okay, let me go see what's going on. She turned to him. She was like, what did you say? Because people were really upset, and rightfully so. So she said after she watched the Carlos King interview, she turned to him and she was like, oh my goodness, the words that you used were cruel to me. And she used that word cruel, and I'm glad that she did. She said, and they didn't protect me as your wife. So Kimmy goes on to basically say that, she initiated the conversation about her declining libido in terms of, their intimate time together. But she basically just let him know that the comments were extremely negative. The commentary that he made on the interview, for her to quote unquote, suffer through it. I mean, that right there, Kimmy, I wish you the best, girlfriend, because that is not a man who has your best interest at heart. And I understand they're trying to put it into context and do damage control to, save the show. But between Martell, Marceau, and now Maurice, they're three peas in a pod. And it reminds me again of DC and now Detroit. Like, these men do not respect their wives. I don't know where Carlos King is finding these men. And it's like they're almost the same prototype of man. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kicker. And I didn't realize that until I really started paying attention to the behavioral patterns of the things that they're saying. But I'm telling you, I don't know if Carlos is basing this off of his own upbringing. I know he said that he did have a traditional upbringing, but if traditional means chauvinistic and misogynistic, then he hit the nail on the head, because out of 3 different series of shows, 3 different cities, it's the exact same type of person. The only difference that I see on their show in Huntsville is Lewis and Tiffany. Tiffany is the pot stirrer, and Lewis is the protector in that relationship. And I haven't seen them actually in a while, to be honest. But I will say that, Claudia, her commentary, she asked Maurice directly, would you rephrase, anything that you said during the interview? And he's like, yeah, I would rephrase it. And then a bit later on in the interview, she goes, I'm sorry, I'm going to speak as the only woman on the panel. And I think she did this even before Al had a chance to speak at all. Because between Q and Claudia, they were going in, and they should, and let have. But she's like, I gave you, 2 times to rephrase what you said. She was like, I keep asking you. She's like, I keep feeling like Kimmy is protecting you more so than you're protecting her as your wife. She's like, I asked you twice, would you rephrase? And you said, yeah. She was like, but you didn't give any type of rationale or, explanation as to how you would rephrase it or what you meant by it. He didn't expound on it. Basically, he was really giving very defensive answers, if at all, right? Either one word answers or defensive answers. And so later, Q, he goes, Kimmy, you look really uncomfortable. And she did. She looked really uncomfortable. She was like on the edge of her seat. You could tell in her facial expressions, they were very tense. Her body language was very tense. She doesn't seem happy at all. And my heart goes out to her, because I can only imagine the stress of living with someone so exhausting, and a man and a husband who just devalues you as a woman, as a partner. I wish her all the best. My heart really does. It goes out to her. But they close out the interview. Maurice goes on to say, at the end of the day, I'm not inside my wife, so I don't know what makes her feel good and what doesn't make her feel good. This dude is exhausting. I mean, Maurice is exhausting. You don't have to be inside of your wife, technically, physically within her being, to know when someone needs rest. to know when someone needs to recuperate, to know when they are fighting for their lives, when, they're having to have radiation. I can't even imagine, the toll that must take on one's body. And she's a nurse. You can ask her. And she's your wife, even if she wasn't a nurse, right? I'm just saying that because she is a nurse, she would have the medical language to give him. But, you're a lawyer. It's not like he's uneducated. I don't know. He's extremely defensive, extremely exhausting. And then, after that, that comment that he made, they basically thanked them for their time. But yeah, my heart goes out to you, Kimmy. I want to hear from you guys though. Drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on the Scotts and what they had to say in regards to them getting dragged on social media for Maurice's misogynistic comments. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I will talk with you later. Take care, aces. Bye.